Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, I am SocioPsycho, and today I bring you a game called Among the Sleep. Now, this was created by Byte Studios, and it is available on PC, Mac, and Linux. This game is a difficult one to explain as it's not overly too long. You have about 3 to 4 hours of gameplay in it, and it does have adventure aspects of it with a horror element on the sideline in the realm of a first-person perspective. And the one thing that I can say safely about this game is that it will show a sign of each individual player's character while playing it. The good games usually do divulge some information about the person playing that they either knew or did not know about themselves, and this game does that. And we'll go into how and why and whether it's a good thing later on. But first, we're going to start with the options menu, and the video resolution screens, they have plenty of many, which is always nice. The quality level in the game is not anything graphically to be astonished by, but at the same time, it's not awful. It gets by for what it is, and I've not had any issues or complaints in that regard to how it looks. The game has been running for me at 60 frames per second with no tearing or clipping, and just had been running smoothly with no frame drops that I have noticed. Now, one thing to note is that it does actually support virtual reality headsets, such as the Oculus Rift. When I did my playthrough, I do not have an Oculus Rift of some such. What I've been able to read on forums is that the virtual reality intensifies the aspect of the game, and the game was built around, it seems, that sort of mentality. And while I definitely do desire and love the fact that more games are coming out with virtual reality, not everybody has such access yet. And it doesn't mean just because the game is good for virtual reality, the game will be good overall. And this is something that to keep in mind. The experience may be intensified if you have virtual reality, but if you do not, the game may be not worth playing at all. And is that the case with this? Well, we'll find out. Your audio sliders are always nice to have in separate sections. The music I haven't found to be all that captivating in this game. The ambient sound and the sound effects are really what they use to try to push the game forward, but the music I was not really impressed with. They use some very low undertones, but nothing to really raise the hair on the back of your neck, or at least not for me. And the use of the effects and ambient sounds eventually just became annoying and tedious. And then in your general, just some more stuff. Field of view as it is first person. Well, it's not a shooter, so it's not a huge deal, but still it's nice to have because people have different ratios that they like. All the controls are very simple, and rebinding with controls is very easy to do with no issues. Now, there's 6 chapters in this game, and like I said, it is a shorter game, about 3 to 4 hours long. After playing this game, my question was, how do I review this game that would be justly for my channel? As I do try to pride myself on making my videos intellectual and logical and putting things in perspective as I see them with facts. The difficulty here is that it is a story-based heavy game wrapped in suspense, which reveals itself greatly at the end of the game to tie everything together and make sense. But the story does not really progress that well, and does not push you forward in any amazing facet. The game tells you about yourself more than anything else. It keeps you in this high tense fight or flight state. The atmosphere is one of continuation of suspense, of what will happen, what's going on, where are the monsters, what is happening, unravel the story to me. But it's about a good hour before you even come across your first monster. And by that time, the suspense that you've felt, you've either broken underneath it, and so the monster will still scare you, or you've completely shrugged off the suspense and accepted the suspense as the reality of your world. It is not something to be afraid of, it is something that you live your life with and you adapt to any individual situation that arises in it, and the suspense no longer dictates your movements, but therefore is just as common as the air you breathe. If you're able to do this, the game will not be scary to you at all. If you're able to overcome or not scare easily, the game will make you most likely feel disappointed in it. If you're looking for a game that will give you a jump scare, this is not it. If you're looking for a game that will give you a fright, and you do not fright easily, this is not it. The best way I can describe this is that if you've lived a cozy little life, you grew up with a nice childhood, and you've had a fair amount of unpleasantry in your life, this game should get under your skin. If you are somebody like myself who's had to scrape through life and had unpleasantries along the way of great many differences, this game will become entirely boring and even tedious and pathetic in some cases. Now, I say these things not to bash the game, but simply as the truth of the matter. I can respect those who will find this game entertaining, and I can respect those who will be frightened by the game. And I will show you what I mean and say about the concepts of the world. But for myself and some others out there, this will definitely not be a game that's even worth remembering. So let us begin by going over the basic controls of movement. As you can see, you have the availability to move certain objects, close doors, open closets, and thus. But what's most interesting is the companion they give you in the beginning, which is a teddy bear. When you squeeze the teddy bear, he will illuminate light, and it will give you a convenient flashlight in the dark. This is a nice mechanic to have, and I like how they implemented it into the game as not only your direct companion, but also as your source of comfort. As many as you may be able to relate to having stuffed animals as kids, this concept is definitely one that's enjoyable to see and have, and helps regress you as the player into the mindset of a child. And that's really what they try to do and symbolize throughout this entire game. The whole point is to make you feel like a toddler, make you feel helpless and scared and timid, hiding behind the usage of a teddy bear. Now, this is not to be bashed as a bad thing. They did this actually quite well, and many people won't even realize what's happening to them and get sucked away by it, and that is good character design to be able to do that. Now, you can also actually move objects in the world like blocks and small things here and there and climb up on them. You have two modes of movement. You can crawl, which is faster, and you can walk, which is tab, but you can't move things if you're crawling. Overall, the way they've designed the character, how it bobs, how it walks, how it feels as if you are a 2-year-old child, where you don't have much weight. If you try running on your feet, you'll get a little bit, and then you'll stumble and fall, and you'll make a little whining sound, and you'll keep going on your way. The way they've managed to be able to incorporate this definitely can regress a lot of people into the mindset of being helpless, or at least into the mindset of, this is the world I'm in. I need to be careful because when I find something bad, I cannot fight against it. It automatically puts you in a I'm going to run away response should danger come my way, which I can respect the game for doing. How far the individual player goes with that is up to them.
This place creeps me out. I hope your mother is okay.
Which leads us into, how does your character react to the world, and how does the level design manage that? And the level design is split right down the middle, because while this game, I said earlier, is not graphically amazing or impressive, it is artistically beautiful. Many aspects of the game look very lovely. It takes a sort of dream world characteristic and applies it into a explorational aspect. You're wandering around these different levels, and the good aspect is that the majority of the levels look beautiful. They have character and artistic value to them, and something you could definitely see yourself in a mysterious land or a dream world. The bad side is, while some of the levels do not look all that impressive, they all suffer from the same issue of linearness. They all lead into directly following the path and being handheld through the story. Now, the greatest example that I can give to you about how this game is linear is that the core of the game, the most important aspect, is collecting memories, and you have to collect 4 memories, put it into this machine. It does not give you a choice upon which pathway, which tunnel to jump down. And if you're believing that each pathway continues to progress the story into the next one, that's not true. Each memory you get to open and power the machine is no more valuable in telling the story to you than the previous or the one ahead of it. Being able to choose which memory to grab first would at least alleviate even just a tiny bit of how linear the game feels, because it would give me a choice upon which direction I wanted to choose, although it does not fix the overall issue that the game itself suffers from in the linear aspect. Now, there are reasons that this is either accepted or not. And as a horror game, you can say, well, I want to be able to get to the cabin in the woods by 2 paths. And I say, okay, in a horror game, you have the option. And in an adventure game, where they try to set out a certain pathway for you, I can definitely see you need to find these keys and solve these puzzles along the way of a path. Now, when your game is an adventure/horror, it becomes a management of having puzzles along the path, but also having a good level design upon where people can still get around monsters or tricky or scary spots and have that freedom. And that, unfortunately, is where they failed. In the level design, the paths and linearness that you take continue to feel more like a chore, leading you continuously down one road, one hallway, one staircase, one path in the woods. Whatever it is, there is real no diversion from it. When you apply the monsters and puzzles on top of this, the game does not offer too much of a variety in how it expands upon the world that you're in. This can lead to a sort of boredom or annoyance with how you interact with the world. And unfortunately, when it comes to the puzzles of the game, they are very simplistic. Now, it tries to regress you into the mindset of a child emotionally by making you feel useless or timid or scared, as I've gone over. But what they failed in is they've kept the puzzles of the same essence. They have puzzles in the game which you need to bypass in order to continue in the story. The issue with this is the puzzles are so simplistic, I believe a 2-year-old could actually accomplish them. This is a severe issue where the game forgets that the person playing is an adult, not a child. This will only continue to add on to the boredom of the game. Now, you may say, well, this is a good aspect for those who are casual players. And yes, the game is only 3 to 4 hours long, and I do not expect to have to spend 40 minutes on one puzzle, but when the game is so simplistic that all you have to do is put a puzzle piece in a puzzle board, which is predetermined where it goes, or some such, the game does not offer much of a challenge, and does not offer much of a brain tease or suspense in that fashion. And unfortunately, because of all these things, it makes it feel more like a B-rated movie than anything else. And why I say that is because it is missing a bunch of little nuances in the game which continue to fulfill your time. Yes, the world is suspenseful and it may grab you in and make you feel like, whoa, this is dangerous, or I need to be careful, or what is that sound? But it's missing the things that actually make you feel engaged in the world. And when it comes down to the story and progression of the story, you get about 40% worth of the story in the beginning of the game, and then at the very end of the game, you get about 50% of the story. That leaves about 10% of the story to be explained or to be uncovered, and that 10% is murky or little fillers or question marks or, oh, that kind of makes a little more sense in this world now because I have the rest of the story. And that's where the mistake of it is. And why it feels so disconnected and linear and boring is because they did not lead you to uncover the story. They gave you a chunk, then little breadcrumbs, and then congratulations, you finished, here's another chunk. This was a severe detrimental to the game because it affects every aspect of it. And where you would make that up is obviously by how the level looks and how it's designed, which we've covered, and it looks good. Although some of the design aspects are not too good. And where else you'd make it up is the monsters and how the monsters help suspense through the game. And that is where another thing it fails in. So why do the monsters fail? That is an important question. And it's quite easy because they set themselves up for failure. They prolong the meeting in between you and a monster for over an hour. And during that entire time, they do nothing but try to continue to keep up the suspense. There's sounds in the dark, there's movement, it's creepy. Yes, we get it, and we've already gone over whether or not that will destroy you, or you'll adapt and rise above that, and leading more towards the monster being even more of a joke. But the issue is, when you do meet a monster, the first monster that you meet in a protective gaze. You are not threatened by this monster at all. You visually see what it is, so you can identify how it's bad and you don't want to be near it, but it ruins the continuation of understanding that the monsters are somehow going to get you or somehow creepy. They might as well just plaster across the screen in big red letters, "A monster is near." The way the screen trembles and it shakes and the noise that it makes does not help the suspense of the game. If anything, it ruins it. If I'm sneaking along a pathway and I all of a sudden get grabbed from behind and killed, that is suspenseful. That could potentially make me pee myself. And that happens by not having identifiers that the monster is within proximity of me. When I'm sneaking about, and I don't even have to hear because the entire screen goes fuzzy like a TV on bad reception, it does not do anything to prolong my scaredness. I know exactly when a monster is near. I know exactly when a monster is gone. This does not give a sense of fear. And as soon as you realize this in a game, what little suspense you had will diminish. The suspense that it was building you for, the suspense that it was grabbing you towards to continue to try to get away and to continue to try to be fearful of the world will be completely destroyed because you have a realization you have all the power in your hands. Anything that happens, any failure, is fully your fault. And the scares in the game are nothing but more than cheap tactics. They're things you would see and expect to see in a haunted house. They do not actually convey fear once you understand them, because the atmosphere of the monsters does not coincide with the atmosphere of the environment. It builds it up, but does not deliver, and ends with it being nothing more but cheap parlor tricks which can easily see through and even laugh at. So in the end, when it comes down to it, is this game actually worth getting? And the realization of the matter is, for the length of the game and the price point they're asking, I would say no. Now, that does not mean that it's not worth putting on a wish list further down and waiting for it to get a little cheaper, go on sale on Steam. That's perfectly understandable. And if you have a virtual reality headset, then yes, from what I hear, this is definitely a pickup. And the same thing applies as if earlier. If you're easily scared, then maybe after watching this video, this will still hold interest to you. And if you're not easily scared, then definitely stay away from this because it will not be of any interest to you. The story of a game does not hold strong enough weight to recommend it on that. And the graphics and the atmosphere are nice. The tempo of how the game makes you feel is not one of I'm in danger, just this is a dangerous place to be. So in my personal opinion, I find it extremely hard to actually give this game a personal recommendation. It has failed in far too many areas. Maybe you'll enjoy it, and I certainly hope if that's the case that you do. I'd like to thank you all for watching, as I appreciate your viewership. Feel free to subscribe, and I will hope to see you next time. Take care everybody, for I have been SocioPsycho, and I wish you all the best.